Welcome to Redspin Sports. Nate is got the night off, the evening off. His family's up from Florida. They went to a Yankees game yesterday. I believe that was the game where they witnessed the epic comeback of the Angels.
That was last night.
Yeah, yeah. Because on the phone today, Nate was just like, "Man, fuck this Yankees team." Look, I feel his pain. All right. I know what it's like to have a team that's good on paper that just can't seem to do anything with it. It's a rough experience. So, but you're doing good, Miguel, with the Dodgers. You're not in a bad spot.
This last season, finally. After those few years where they should have at least won once. But yeah.
Yeah,
that's kind of where the Yankees are at right now. It seems because they've been touted as they've been good. They just haven't gone to the World Series yet. They keep, and then they don't make it at the end.
Yeah, Yankees and the Dodgers have both had the same issue the last few years, and that's that they run into Houston that has some questionable practices and some questionable behaviors and. But the other thing that the Astros have had is they've had a closer that had some really bad run-ins with domestic violence that always seem to be swept under the rug, which I think kind of takes us into the first thing we're going to chat about here. So for those that don't know, I will let Miguel here catch people up on what has been happening with Trevor Bauer. Trevor Bauer famously. As someone that I've never said a good word about, because it doesn't take much of a dive into him. Just look at his Twitter. Just look at a lot of things, and you'll find a lot to dislike about Trevor Bauer. But most recently a Dodger this year, but has recently had some things surface. So yeah, why don't you catch people up on that?
All right. So if folks have not heard, Trevor Bauer was accused of domestic violence, and it looks like potentially also sexual assault by a woman on Monday. Like, she filed a restraining order against Trevor Bauer, and that's how everyone found out about it. And so that happened. She made that there's like a 67-page report, and there's a really good article on The Athletic describing the whole thing. It's very graphic, so trigger warning for those that it's domestic violence and sexual assault. So if that topic doesn't, if it affects you, don't read it. It gets into some graphic details, but essentially the woman is accusing Trevor Bauer of punching her in the face a few times, as well as in her vagina, and I believe in her, like, just different parts of her body. And then also is accusing him of also sexually assaulting him because she got unconscious, and then she woke up to him, assaulting him or her. And she did state that they had consensual sex, but that doesn't mean that a woman should be assaulted, because she did not consent to that part. But that's what a lot of these Trevor Bauer and Barstool types will be arguing.
They're gonna argue
that's already what Trevor Bauer's lawyer and agent already stated, and is already arguing that they had consensual sex, and they already leaked tweets, and probably even, I think, social media messages, to the media. So they already started that campaign to smear her.
Yeah. And starting that campaign based around the idea that, again, like you said, she admits, and fully admits to what was consensual and where that line is, and he clearly crossed it. And that's the thing. And there's a piece you wrote, Miguel, that I really liked. I recommend people check that out. That's on your Twitter at Sports is a Weapon. But where you point out that consent is something that we can all give and we can all, like, pull back, when we no longer, feel that a situation is safe. But it's used as this thing is like it's that thing that I got right here at the beginning, and it's something you can't retract, and that's not how that works. You can retract that at any time. You can always tll anybody, I don't feel safe. This is not what I signed up for, and I'm out. And, and from what I've read of her statement, that's exactly what happened. Exactly. You know what I mean? And they're trying to use, they're trying to use the, things that look, I mean, what two consenting adults do, you know what I mean? Like they're trying to use like her saying things about like wanting it rough, like slaps, choking, things like that. There's a difference between what you're asking for and beating somebody unconscious. Mm-hmm. And it sounds like in that first encounter, because there were two, it sounds like in that first encounter, everything stayed in bounds. And it sounds like everything went awry the second encounter. And that second encounter is where he clearly went beyond where she was comfortable, and he just didn't stop. And at that point, again, that consent means shit. It means nothing.
Even in those messages that he leaked, he even like pretty much confirms that he did something to her, because he asked her like, how are you feeling? Like, are you hurting or whatever, or something like that. And so he's already kind of confirming that too.
And his agent called it concern. It was like his human caring and concern or some shit for her. And it's like, but at the same time, he's pitching Saturday, right?
Oh, like he's facing. So far, the Dodgers only made a statement that they're aware of, the accusations, and they're gonna not comment on it. They're like, they are like, against what they've heard, but they're not going to comment on it further until MLB, et cetera, law enforcement. Just a typical PR statement, which is expected. It's not like I really expect anything different. I'm not surprised by it, but as someone who's a Dodger fan, it is disappointing, even though I knew that's probably what's going to happen. It still sucks when it's your favorite team. But regardless if it's my favorite team or not, it doesn't matter what team it is. They always tend to do that instead of really, they do that typical PR thing. Yeah.
It's baseball's continued problem with domestic violence. And that's not to say that the other sports don't have that.
The other sports have this issue as well, but like, especially like maybe the NFL. But then you could even make those connections to like the game of violence that they play already and all those other issues besides that. But in baseball, it's something that continues to be an issue, and that we've really, a lot of things have came out this past year, and they seem to be behind the ball on all this stuff as usual, and compared to the other sports.
Yeah, they just, it's and with where baseball and football differ, and they both have a domestic violence problem, is that there are cases that you can point to in the NFL where those people never came back. The Ray Rices, when now that's not to say that, teams didn't also let him try out for a while, but there was a distancing. And in baseball, a few weeks ago, I went off on this a little bit because it drives me crazy how baseball has this problem. And absolutely, by the way, Miguel, sorry, I just saw your message. Yeah, man. By all means, like share away. But like where baseball's issue is, first of all, they didn't suspend the first person for domestic violence until 2016. That's the first time they ever did it. And it's not the first time they had domestic violence. Like, that's the thing, right? Like, that was not baseball's first encounter, but it was the first time they suspended. And everybody on that list of players, I believe it's 19 that have been suspended from 2016 until now, they all came back. As soon as their suspension was up, they came right back and joined their team. And the only kind of,
I think even Addison Russell did for a little bit before they eventually cut him.
Yep.
Yeah,
and
now he's
so
in the Mexican League.
And it's one of those things where, the articles that you get on it are always articles that are then talk about how that player needs to earn the trust of the locker room back. And you're like, I don't like what a weird angle to take. It's like the person that they need to earn the trust back is these other dudes in a locker room. That like that's the big trust they have to earn. No, they have to earn the trust back from women. They have to earn the trust back from, it's such bullshit to just, have them do this and then go through this suspension, whether it be Aroldis Chapman's was real short all the way up to Herman's was like 80 games. You know what I mean? Like, but no matter what, they come back and you'll get article after article that just goes on about them essentially being like, what are they going to do to earn the trust of their team back? Like that's the only hurdle. Like that's the only important thing on the road to their recovery. And it's just the way that they do it, So anyway, I'll let you get back to the take on what should the Dodgers do? Like if play GM, what would you do right now?
So in my article, I pretty much said like I'd cut him immediately or at least suspend him, even before MLB makes a decision, or even before law enforcement does, because his hearing's not even until July 27th. They have, it's not like they filed charges. This is just a restraining order. But I hope that they at least suspend him or cut him, but it looks like they're not because he's fucking pitching on Saturday and they haven't said anything. And they're just going to keep saying, well, we're waiting on MLB. But like reading those details, they're accusations, but those details are pretty graphic and they got evidence of photos. Like,
yeah.
So like, I'm kind of a surprise. No, I'm not surprised actually that they didn't, because he just signed, which I talk about in my article that I wrote, and I haven't written something in like 5 years on my website. I've just been podcasting now, but I felt like I had to write something about this, and I point out like, I know other folks have pointed this out too. Are the Dodgers, maybe they haven't said nothing because this was their prize free agent acquisition. Their acquisition.
Yeah.
Like they paid him $102 million for 3 years. He's on a $40 million contract right now, and he has opt-out years. But it's because then they would pretty much admit that they fucked up, because there's already warning signs. Like obviously we can't predict that he was going to do something this fucking shitty, like horrific.
Yeah.
But there was already warning signs about his misogyny,
exactly,
misogyny and how he treats women online. So there's already signs there. So it's not like they already didn't know about his character, which the Dodgers, when they sign him, are going to say, hey, we spoke to him and everything and blah, blah, blah. And he understands. Well, it doesn't look like it. And it's like the same thing that just happened in the NBA with Chauncey Billups and Jason Kidd. And that's, of course, they got hired as head coaches in the NBA. So this isn't just an issue for MLB. But especially with what's happened lately with MLB, with Porter, with the Mets GM, and Callaway, the former manager of the Mets, and other folks in baseball accused of sexual assault or just harassment or domestic violence. Like they got fired pretty quick. So And then usually and a lot of these players like Chapman, like with the Dodgers, I pointed that out. The Dodgers traded for Chapman in the winter meetings in 2015. I remember being so excited because we were going to get another closer to, team up with Jansen. And this is when Jansen was in his prime. This is 2015. Yeah. And hours after that announcement, it came out, he got arrested for domestic violence and hitting his wife. So the Dodgers rescinded the trade because they didn't want any part of it. And obviously the Yankees eventually signed him, or traded for him, and then traded him to the Cubs, and the Cubs won the World Series with him. But see, the Dodgers made that statement back then and didn't they quickly made the decision to cut ties. But why aren't they doing it here? I think it's because they just signed him. Also, as someone who's brown, who's Latino, Like, I kind of think, oh, maybe it has to do with race. I don't know, but I really think it's something to do. It's obviously his contract and him being a big signing, because it was just a few months ago. But there's all these factors that I think maybe that's why, because they quickly like did something about the Chapman thing when they traded for him.
Yeah, but, no, absolutely. I mean, and that's baseball's issue, right? It's the lack of a statement. They don't make a statement. They don't push things through. I'll throw up here's Miguel's article. Definitely recommend everybody go and read it, and share.
And then there's a Twitter thread I shared on there that someone put out that's describing like consent, because a lot of the argument, we talked about earlier, a lot of shitty people's arguments is, oh, well, if they were having sex and blah blah blah, consent, but like you could revoke your consent like while you're having sex. Like if she's not feeling comfortable and she feels like unsafe, like
exactly,
you could do that. So this person's Twitter thread is pretty good, like breaking that all down. So if people want to use that to argue with freaking assholes.
Was this it?
Yeah. So it's like a whole thread. So I put that in my article too.
To answer your your question, Jeffrey, the thing that's hard with the NFL and when the first domestic violence suspension goes in is they get away with it by saying that it's player conduct code, and they don't tell you what it is. Like most of the time, up until later, up until like Ray Rice cases, things like that. Even like, it's funny, like the Ben Roethlisberger, I shouldn't say it's funny. That's just a term phrase. But like the Ben Roethlisberger shit, like the groping the waitress, that was for like 2 days in the news cycle. That was just conduct. That was a conduct issue before she said something, because the NFL's always kept shit to where it's like, no, we're not going to actually say what it is. NBA does similar things. Most of the leagues do that with drug policy. They'll never let you actually know the drug. So yeah, it's really tough with the NFL to know when their first, domestic violence was. Like baseball addressed domestic violence by name by suspension in 2016. And they claim, I mean, if you look at all the domestic violence suspensions in the MLB, Aroldis Chapman's the first one in 2016. Now, they don't admit to suspending somebody for that before then, had they done what the NFL does with player conduct. But yeah, it's really hard in the NFL something else has to come. It has to become public in a different way. The league's not going to tell you why. But to go back to Trevor Bauer again really quick. I mean, this goes all the way back to, his early, I mean, he's gone through so many phases, right? Like his MAGA phase, he's gone through his online bully phase.
Like he's talked about being an anti-vaxxer, I think, or like kind of a lot of that stuff.
And it's one thing to be like, okay, dude can pitch, and Trevor Bauer can. He's a tremendously talented pitcher. And you can go, yeah, he's a great pitcher, but I don't like him as a person. He's kind of a piece of shit. But for me, the first big red flag was his treatment of, was it Nikki Giles? Is that her name? Was her treatment of Nikki Giles? If you're not familiar with that, she was just an Astros fan who literally went on Twitter, and the Astros were doing some Twitter promotion thing where it was like, tweeted us your favorite, Astro. And she was a Bregman fan, I believe.
Yeah, she tweeted that.
And she just tweeted something about Bregman, and Trevor Bauer just happened to see it and said something. And she was like, well, yeah, you're my least favorite baseball player. Cause he said something.
I forgot about that part. Yeah. In my article, all I did was mention her response, but I forgot that he actually seeked out the tweet.
He started it. He started it just by seeing it and commenting something on it. And all she did was, I mean, she's a college student in Texas who's an Astros fan, and she was just like, well, you're my least favorite baseball player, clearly. Like, you're just like butting in. And he
how many times fans respond to and talk crap, and then that wasn't even bad. That was like just that was like chill, like like that was nice, like talking shit. It wasn't like nothing crazy. Like
she wasn't like
responding to his tweet.
And he attacked her pretty hard, and it was over a 24-hour period. There's a great like Uncoil or whatever service will do put the whole like Twitter timeline. But somebody like unrolled that whole thread to see an order. He never went more than 19 minutes and 24 hours tweeting at her. That is insane. Like, that is insane behavior. It drove her off social media. His fans then piled on, because that him being like a big MAGA person at that time, all of this stuff, like that whole group then comes out of the woodwork. They all start piling on. I mean, he ruined this girl's life for 3 days just because she tweeted jokingly at him when he sought her tweet out that, you're my least favorite baseball player. And like I said, to think about going 24 hours and not taking more than 19 minutes doing anything. Whatever that thing is you're doing every 19 minutes is like it. Yeah. Now imagine that's attacking a college girl on Twitter when you're, a top MLB pitcher. It's unreal. That was the first big red flag.
And that was when he was in Cleveland. That was only like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's not normal. Like, I mean, I get it. You don't want to go out on a limb too often and say what's normal and what's not. That's not normal. Mm-hmm. I mean, over that, I mean, it just, so yeah, it's the writing was on the wall, his erratic behavior anyway. But yeah, I mean, MLB can take a stand, the Dodgers can take a stand. And even if the Dodgers just say, you know what, you're not going to pitch until we get to the bottom of this. But the point is that it's not what teams do. They say, how do we keep you on this roster and playing all the way up until we fucking have to get rid of you? And that's the wrong mentality to take. And you could take a really easy stand, but teams don't do it, leagues don't do it, and it's unfortunate.
Dude, it's so bad, and I'm so angry. And then I guess I've seen a few Dodger fans on Twitter, already being apologists for Trevor Bauer and shit.
And again, it goes back to that whole consent shit, right? And it's like it's again, like, I mean, pop culture even makes fun of this with their like, oh, you got to have your consent paperwork signed, as though, again, given this one time, just blankets all, like it cannot be rescinded by somebody who's not safe. I mean, shitty analogy. I get that. This is a really shitty analogy, but it's like, it's not like when you say, yeah, all right, I'm going to go, skydiving. I signed the paperwork. I got in the plane. You get up there and you're like, you know what? I'm actually not feeling this. They're not like, fuck you, man. You signed this shit. You're jumping out of this plane. You know what I mean? Like, you have the ability as a person in any situation when you were about this, now you are not, and you get to like pull yourself out of those situations. And that part is just glossed over, or they always gloss over the point where somebody doesn't feel safe, the point where somebody would like to check out, and they just go, yeah, no, but at some point during this interaction of these two, which in their case, it was like a span of like a month. So like essentially in April, she says yes to something. So in May, he can kick the shit out of her. But you know what? She said yes in April. So this idea is absolute horseshit. We got to throw it away, because that's the defense. It's always the defense on this stuff. She said yes. She said yes, and glossing over the fact that, again, you get to pull yourself out of unsafe situations.
And I already Twitter being such a ridiculous place, even though I'm always on there. There was already Dodger
both, man.
Yeah, there was already shitty Dodger fans like putting this whole like conspiracy out there, like, oh, well, she's from San Diego, so maybe she's a Padres plant, blah blah blah, trying to get the Dodgers. I'm like, what are you
That's
talking
it.
about? Oh man.
Yeah. I mean, and that's where like we all have our teams, we all have our our players that we support, our teams we support, but there's a line where I think a lot of the even diehard like lefty sports fans like understand the problem with fanaticism to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a line that that you don't cross, especially for like just the sake of it's my team. You know what I mean? Like, your team that's full of players that weren't born there, don't play for their favorite team, don't. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, no.
But like they can't separate. And it probably is more logical for them to think that this was some other team did this. Just to
so ridiculous.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane. Another baseball thing here before Mike hops on in a little bit and tells us to stop talking about baseball. This is what happens when Nate's gone, y'all. It's all just baseball. And that is Angel Hernandez, Angel Hernandez. This is something that I think every like moderate, like middle of the road to passionate baseball fan knows that name. And they know that name because it's like he was a meme before there was a meme for what it is to be the quintessential bad umpire. Hernandez has definitely had some egregious calls. At the same time, you put him on par with all the horrendous calls. You know what I mean? It's not like if you just look up bad MLB's worst calls of all time, it's not just going to be like a Hernandez highlight. You know what I mean? There's a bunch of this shit. And this happens often. Where this becomes a political thing, where this becomes in my opinion, a left solidarity, because you will not hear a lot of people defend him ever. He is literally one of the most hated men in baseball. And all you got to do is like say he's calling one of your games to get somebody to be like, well, fuck, like it's over. You know what I mean? Which is crazy because you're like, over for both teams. He's going to call both anyway. You know what I mean? Like
strike zone is pretty bad, but it's not like it's not like he's the only bad umpire.
Exactly. But where this becomes the political and like I said, for me, I think of it as a solidarity issue, is in the fact that the media, he's the only one that they go after too. Mm-hmm. They will literally use his name in a headline and be like, look who's at it again. They have memeified him. I mean, like I said, he was a meme before a meme was a thing.
And then they're like hella praising Joe. They praise Joe West like all the time.
Yep. And the reason is, if you're unfamiliar with Hernandez, is Hernandez has sued the MLB and he's used the union to protect his job. He has done two things that they don't like when you do. And that is he has used the union to protect his own job because he has gone out on a limb to say, first of all, we're umpires. It's human. This has been human. There's baseball purists out there who say that it should remain human called and not, robo called. So all he's saying is that I'm doing the same human thing everyone else is doing, and my rates aren't any crazier. Like my bad call rates aren't any crazier than some of the other at the worst. There are some umpires that are super consistent. He is in that bottom like 35%, but the point is he's not in the bottom one. And when baseball hands out report cards for their umpires, they pay based on what you get wrong, what you get right, things like that. He is well within his job. And they tried to really hit him hard a few years ago, several years ago now, and he fought back with the union and he fought back with a lawsuit. and he won.
Mm-hmm.
And he kept his job. It's one of those things where, if I mean, we go back to like, or take any job that you want, right? If you're the employee and your boss keeps coming to you saying, hey, you, and I'm pointing directly at you, singular person, you need to step it up. And you're looking around going, I am on par with everybody else around me in this group. Yeah, that group over there is doing better, but you pay them more. But I am within this group and we are all getting our job done. Why are you singling me out? I feel like this is targeted harassment towards me and I'm not going to stand for it. And you have a union that'll back you up and you take it all the way to the courts and they side for you and you win and you keep your job. This is why he's the most hated man in baseball. Mm-hmm. And this is why they project this shit on him all the time. I mean, just in the last 2 days, I mean, the headlines for him, hang on, let me just get a basic. Oh, one of the top Google searches is Aniel Hernandez's salary. Like people are literally looking up how much this dude makes. You know what I mean? Like they want to know how much he makes because they think he's so bad. So they can go, he doesn't deserve this kind of money. You know what I mean?
Like searches I see are his salary, bad call, and memes.
Yep. Yeah, it is. I mean, who else do they do
for a
this
long
to?
time? He's been an umpire since I was a kid.
Yeah. Who else do they do this to? I mean, these are all the top news stories. Mm-hmm. Oh, worst call of the season. Cool. It was June. There's a lot of season left. Nope. It's the worst one you're going to see. He just won't stop making terrible calls.
Some of their umpires have like gone against him, which is fucking bullshit. No worker solidarity there from some of them.
Company men.
Yeah, like Joe. Like I'm pretty sure Wes is one of them because I think him and Hernandez has some beef.
Like, and why? Like, I saw this headline the other day. Like, not only this is before the Trevor Bauer story broke, but like, Trevor Bauer offers not safe for work remark. What? Like, then you read it, and he was like, "Was that a shitty call?" Like, it was just like something like, God, I hate clickbait too. But anyway, I mean, they don't. I mean, there was that umpire. I remember, like the last umpire that I remember actually being hit really hard. I'm going to blank on who it was. There was a Tigers pitcher who had a no-hitter going.
Oh, yeah. What's his name?
And he called that dude.
Galarraga.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he called that dude safe at first. It was clearly out. And it didn't go. I think that was pre-replay, right? Or like they didn't have another one. Maybe they were out. I don't remember. But I mean,
that
clearly
was right
out.
Before replay, like 1 year before. That's probably the
but
call
I remember
implement replay.
Yeah, it was a really bad call. And that umpire that day defended it. And I remember the media was like, oh, what a bad call. I can't believe they'd robbed this guy. The next day, after that umpire got to review it, he met that pitcher, hugged him, and cried. I mean, he bawled because he was like, I really did get that wrong. And it was like, that was really, really, really bad. And the next day, like the media just completely like redeemed that dude. And they should have. I'm not saying like, I'm not bringing this up to be like, they shouldn't have done this with this guy, but like they hit him hard for like 2 hours. And then the next day, the news cycle was all like, look at the remorse in this sweet, sweet human being of an umpire who saw that he got a bad call. But meanwhile, Hernandez has one strike call that was pretty outside the zone, and it's just headline after headline. And they've done this to him for years and years, and it's because, again, it goes back to that he stepped out of line. He did something that the worker's not supposed to do. He stood up for himself, and he said, cool, all right, so I'm in the bottom 35%. I mean, that's most people that I know that give effort at their day job. Like, I mean, it is one of those things where it's like, that's not against, like, you know what I mean? You're not bottom of the barrel here. And you know what? I got to be honest. I'm fine if you're also bottom of the barrel. But at the same time, it's like, I'm not saying you deserve promotions, but you know what? I think everyone deserves wages and a place to live. You know what I mean? Like, that's where we're at. That's why we have the views that we have. These are basic
like by rank and file
things.
stuff. He would be like up there too because he's been an umpire for a while.
Yeah. Yep.
Like seniority.
Yep, absolutely.
He has that on a lot of the umpires.
Yep. And then the other thing too, I think, I haven't heard, a lot of this, but at the same time, I never want to jump to it, but you never want to discount it. And that is, he was easily one of the first Latin umpires. Mm-hmm. And again, to go against the company, to go against the grain in the way that he did, the audacity to stand up for his right to keep his job because he's not the worst at it, and it has been a media onslaught. I mean, I would encourage anyone just, have some, that kind of like not fun, really looking up just how many years this has been going on and the articles and the videos. And I mean, I have a feeling this dude has supported somebody's shitty YouTube career. Like they've made a career out of just blasting this one dude's bad calls when, again, watch a worst calls ever highlight reel. It's not all him.
There's probably 1 million views and someone monetizes the video.
Yeah. Yeah. It's ridiculous, and like I said, they don't give this this reputation to other people that have done that. I mean, my Cardinals, in the, was it 83 after they won 82 after they won in 81, 83 after they won in 82, had a horrible call against Kansas City. The Cardinals have been on the receiving end of an infield fly rule that I always like to bring up. You know what I mean?
Famous World Series moment.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where these umpires don't go down and you know what I mean? Like, but this one guy does. And I think it's really, really telling that this one guy is the one guy who used unions in the courts for the other thing that they were designed to do, like not to get ahead, not to like manipulate, but they really do. They make it seem like he fucking used this shit to like steal money from the MLB. Like by paying him, he's stealing. Like it's fucking insane how some of these articles really go to be like, he needs to lose his job and he needs to lose his job now. And he doesn't deserve the wage. And it's unreal.
How many of those people writing those articles do a shitty ass job at their job, but are they down to lose their job for a shitty job?
Right. And it's like, and this take, and I know it's unpopular defending him, but I'm not defending that he's an amazing umpire, but that's not what this is about. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with, there are protections for his job in place. He used them. That's why he gets this treatment. He could be a better umpire. So many of them could. So many of them could. So yeah, it is.
And like,
drives me crazy.
I'm trying to remember like players that the only player I could think of that's so scrutinized for calls was like, Bill Buckner on highlights. There's not too many players that like some error they made. And then for fans, everyone knows about Steve Bartman. That's like the fan one.
Yeah.
Yeah. All umpires, I can't think of another umpire. He's the only one.
Yep. That gets this level.
Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of bad umpires.
There's a ton,
at least in the strike zone.
And it's ridiculous because it counts as part of the game. Like, why doesn't it count as part of the game for him?
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, how many times have you been watching the Dodgers broadcast, right? Like we all know our hometown broadcast, like our team's broadcast. And you'll you know when they have the colored person on, and you know when they're going to pick on a strike zone, but they always go back to what? They always go back. Something good just happened.
Yes. Grand slam.
But they always go back to he's calling things low, but he's consistent. He's consistently low, and he's consistently, like that's the shit they always use for these guys that are just like consistently call a ball that's 2 inches, above the strike zone low. But that's a ball. Oh, that's just Valentine's ball. Like that's where you know what I'm saying? Like they do that shit all the time. They defend all of those people. But if it's Hernandez, they don't do that. They're just like, oh, it's erratic and crazy. And this he's ruining the game. So is it Valentine? Like what's his first name?
Oh, Bobby Valentine?
Yeah.
Former manager?
There's an umpire. There's a Valentine umpire.
Umpire, I forgot his first name, but yeah, there's a Valentine you're talking about.
He has the worst strike zone I've ever seen. And people are like, oh, this guy, we's beloved. We love him. We love this guy. Look at him. Look at him with his adorable, awful strike zone. He's consistently, like, it doesn't make sense. What's a strike one pitch is a ball the next. But that's part of the game. That's sweet, and that's just part of the game. He's he means well. But Hernandez, evil man, stealing money out of your pockets.
Stealing money, whatever. You fuck billionaire ass owners of MLB.
It's funny you brought up Bartman, because like I feel like so much of it is it's always.
He's also a scapegoat for that game, like. A bunch 100%. Of shit had to happen before that happened, like for them, the Cubs to blow it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, like I don't know, like the fact that I always like to point out that it went 7 games and that was not game.
Yeah,
7.
that wasn't even like the game. It's kind of the same thing with Bill Buckner. Like when they lost Game 6, there was still one more game to play.
Yeah. Who and what team was winning when that happened? What team was winning when that happened?
Yeah,
the Cubs were winning.
Yep.
The Cubs were literally winning. So it's a game you're winning. That dude was one hand, and I will never forget those shots because it's like 100 hands. They were everyone. Like there's all these people reaching up.
But he just so happens to be the last one to touch it.
Yeah,
like,
he's the last one to touch it. Yep. So it's his fault. And was that Abreu? Who was out there?
Alou,
yeah. And like I will always contend, always contend that dude wouldn't have caught that ball with a fucking Inspector Gadget arm. Like he wasn't going to get there. I just don't think he was going to get that ball either. So I also think ball wasn't catchable. See ya, hands. You were winning the game. It wasn't the 9th. That was like the 6th inning. Might have been the 5th. You have so much game left, and that wasn't out number 3. That wouldn't have been the. That wouldn't have been ending the inning.
Yeah, that's true. I think there was still there was either 1 out or 0 out still because they had a couple hits. From what
it is
where that happened.
But that's the fan brain, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the fan brain. It's someone's fault. Someone's got to pay for this. Somebody has to pay for this.
I'm always going to blame the Tuck rule. The Raiders not winning the Super Bowl that year. And the funny thing is, it was still technically the 2nd round, so they could have taken out in the 3rd round or the Super Bowl. But like you're saying, it's that fandom brain where you're just like in denial. Especially when your team has like had all these moments where they choke or don't win. Like the Cubs.
Yeah.
Until they finally won. And they won with a freaking domestic abuser as the closer.
Yep. and who didn't even I love the fact that my favorite things about Chapman in that, I mean, I hate Chapman, but I don't obviously hate the Cubs, and not a big Yankees fan either. So it's one of those things where and then domestic violence on top of that. Yeah, fuck that guy. But like he's the only person that brought him that title. That was I like to say that is the clearest case of a team blowing a championship, not a team winning it. I mean, Cleveland blew that. I mean, you're up 3-1. Come on.
Yeah, you were up 3-1 against the Cubs, like the most cursed baseball team that ever existed.
But Chapman single-handedly, won that for them and won Game 7 for them.
That's true.
And then bailed, was gone that night, didn't go back to Chicago, didn't go to the parade, and never got his ring. Just said, mail it to me.
Because he went back to the Yankees.
The idea that your hired hitman that won that for you was also like, I don't care. Like, I don't want to be in your silly, I don't want to do any of this. That's the person. So Mike just hit me up. He will be on in a few. Definitely gonna hit this name, image, likeness.
Oh yeah, so that also happened today. A lot of shit's happening.
Yeah, I definitely want to get Mike's take on the on that SI cover photo too.
Oh that was disgusting. Like, who approved that shit, dude?
I tried.
Not like it's surprising,
I tried really.
But you would think they wouldn't be as tone deaf about it.
Yeah, I tried really, really, really hard to find the justification. You know what I mean? Like, okay, could they have thought they were being subversive? Is there a way they could have thought that? And I don't think there's any way around it. I think that's just like, you're either completely so numb to this issue that you can't see how that's in poor taste, or they know and they don't care. A lot
of times they just don't care.
Yeah. So yeah, that was really tough.
What I want to see is Debo actually gonna, is he gonna back out of that promise he made about players getting paid? He said a couple years ago that he would quit if players started getting paid. So, what do you do? Coach Sweeney.
We need to hit him up.
Auburn head coach.
Hit him up and be like, wait, I mean, so I guess bye.
He already said something.
Of course he did.
ESPN. Debo Sweeney excited about benefits of NIL ruling for players, says Clemson running. Oh, that's just the running back.
Oh,
he probably didn't say it.
I was gonna say, yeah. I doubt he's gonna be
clickbait ESPN
I doubt
article.
He's gonna be doing that.
ESPN's
really good at that. Yeah, that's
said it. They probably just asked him on the spot and shit on TV, because that's what it looks like. It was like a video and they're interviewing a player about it. They're like, hey, what about your coach, Sweeney?
Yeah, they needed a quote.
And
they needed a soundbite.
It's not surprising that Coach K is also going to retire after this season, after he, everyone knew that they're going to have this ruling come down. Or that Roy Williams retired too.
Yeah.
It's pretty
for me, do you think so? Like, honest opinion on this. Do you think that's because they're the old school that don't think that this should happen? They just don't want to see it. Like, do you think that's what it is? Like, do you think that they're just like, I can't stomach this. I can't stomach how how we've bastardized this? Do you think it's because they don't think their schools can compete? Like I'm just
because now it's before like what would Duke be their selling point besides their winning, right? I guess they have a good school, but obviously they're not there. You can go to class or like they're just, usually they're just there to play basketball, and then they don't even get the resources that they need like a normal student, which a lot of people don't ever talk about in terms of student athletes. But like, I don't know, maybe that's what it is, because now any school, like, especially like we kind of saw this happening a little bit when California made their own ruling. It didn't blow up like this, but everyone was like, oh, well, now everyone's going to go to all the California schools. So I'm sure there's something like that they're going to point out too.
Yeah.
There he is.
What's up, Mike?
Hey, what's up, everybody? How y'all doing?
What's up,
man?
Justin.
Did you get the good fight fought tonight?
Always. In some form.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Always. Yeah.
We just shifted over to name, image, likeness, and I posed a question to Miguel. I'd like to pose it to you too, right? Like, so with Coach K, like retiring, like the timing of this, like, do you think it's like, it's an honest question, right? Like, it's a successful school that does make money off their basketball program. So I have a hard time thinking it's because like they don't think they can compete under a new model, but maybe that's part of it. But like, do you think there's anything to like them just being like with Roy Williams, and with Coach K and all this? Do you think that they're like, no, I can't be around this bastardization of what they're doing to my beloved sport? Like, do you think there's anything to that? Or do you think they're just like, no, this is a good time to be out? Like, I'm just curious, like why is the timing of it just completely random? They just happen to be calling it quits now? Or do you think it's because there's something with this?
It may be a combination. I mean, kind of reminds me of it, how like they post these statistics about like, cop retirements are up 25%, and people are having a hard time recruit. How horrible, and it's like, oh, that's awesome. I think it's pretty easy to see, the name, image, and likeness as a means that coaches who survived on pure control over their players and stuff, and the kind of, I guess what is this? In neoliberal terms, what would this be called? Like this would be called like the free market actually existing for college labor. Like them actually being able to use their labor to make them some money that isn't just money being made by the universities and controlled by the coaches. I mean, I think it has something to do with that element of control that a lot of these basketball coaches who are in essence, CEOs of this company, that are making all this money, or at least like general managers, of these like companies known as college sports teams, like they just made so much money and had so much power over these athletes, and name, image, and likeness, was a concession to more like radical demands. And there's like so much talk now. Like I listen to some sports radio, and they're like, oh, how is this going to stop like these random, these like college athletes or these agents from being corrupt and all this shit? And it's just like, well, like, how do you make sure the players aren't taken advantage of? Well, maybe they should collectively bargain too. That's the way to think about it. So it's like, it's all leading down a path that I think a lot of these institutions, like remember Clemson coach, football coach Dabo Swinney talked about how this being like, horrible and all this jazz. And you had like a lot of coaches, have really shitty positions on it, but those coaches are also known for like running a program based on this code of personality around them, and that changes when like players are like actually treated as labor that can like make money off of it, not just property of the university.
And they're so used to just being like paternalistic with this whole thing, like in the way they treat the players. Coach is supposed to be like this fatherly figure, you know. That's the way they like
Yeah.
That's the way they like to make the narrative go. Like, oh, he's this fatherly figure molding these young men, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Like they do that when
Yep.
we play. Like I remember in high school playing football, they do that to you too. The coaches talk about all that stuff.
No, in the essence of coaches, I mean, if you even like purely look at it, like in the NFL, it's a lot more apparent. You know what I'm saying? I guess in the NFL, most of the good players make more than the coach. Well, actually, not. Like I think it's like pretty even kills. The great, whatever. But in college, essentially, you were a good coach if you knew how to make your free labor. Get really good free labor that's really good at football and managing them. Managing them throughout this like so-called amateur collegiate football experience, making sure they go to class, hit the field, just so they could like be really good and make you a bunch of money, make your university a bunch of money. So in essence, I mean, that's always been what a coach has been. That's what a college coach is. They have good with recruitment, so they have to be good at getting the free labor. Then they have to be good at, chumming up with these like boosters who tend to be like old alumni who are like billionaires and millionaires of these like, companies that are like fucking people over every day on Wall Street.
Especially like in Oregon with Nike.
Yeah, or even like, think about Oklahoma State with like T-Bone Pickens, he was like the big, like, was a natural gas guy who, ran all these like political ads. I mean, he basically is the reason why Oklahoma State has a stadium. Like these boosters, have been this huge influence over these programs, and they still will be. They still are making a bunch of money with these TV contracts through the NCAA and whatnot. It's just that more of the pie is opened up to the players, which is a good thing that we should welcome. And I think you should see a lot of people like freaking out, about it. And these are the same people who, were totally fine with the institution of college football or collegiate athletics that, thrived off of free labor of young, what was the term that the brother we've had on the show plenty of times used? It was like college indentured athletes, something like that. Like, these universities have made all this money off of, and now it's like those athletes now in turn get that opportunity. I think it just opens the door for more opportunity in the future. But like I said, these folks are like, oh, this is let's destroy the institution, But these are the same people who thought that an institution in which you had people slaving away and not getting anything from the profits they create was just, and I think they're wrong, and I think it's a good thing that they're wrong.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think that this is going to progress more and more, but and this is going to be a story for I think several years to come as they work all this out, but they're going to fight tooth and nail. That's the thing. The universities, I think that you might see some actual embracing of this from some of the conferences, if they can pry themselves away from the NCAA. I think right now the SEC, has some schools that would go, cool, if it's going to be a battle of money, we'll win. I do think that there's some universities with that mentality, but the problem is the NCAA is obviously the opposite of that, and at what point, does this break off into different leagues? Does this break off into how could it unfold? Because I think that if you're Alabama, if you're Clemson, if you're Ohio State, the money's there and it's there. Yeah, it sucks to share from their capitalistic, like mindset, right? Like, yeah, this isn't cool. This used to all be ours, but they have it, and what happens? We have
money out of this, to be honest.
Exactly, and that's the thing, which is another reason why collective bargaining should be there for the athletes, is because as that that changes, you know, like even if they don't make more money, they're always going to try to find a way, right? Like power will do the one thing that power does, which is want to sustain itself. It's going to like shift itself to like always stack that deck, you
Like-
know, against those players.
It might be different because in college and the NCAA, you have so many universities and so many conferences. But do you think it could have like that same effect that we see in like the NBA and like in other pro sports where, you know, the big market cities always seem to have the advantage against the small market cities? So like someone like a school like USC with a lot of tradition that hasn't won in a while, they're in LA and they have all of these, you know, alumni connections throughout the whole world, but it's right there, especially in LA and Hollywood. Like they already used that to their advantage before. Like, hey, come live in LA, blah, blah. When I went to high school with guys that went to USC, a couple years younger than me, like back then in the mid 2000s, they would do things like, they would do illegal things like buy them phones at the time when, you know, flip phones were the big thing.
Yeah.
You know, the normal stuff. They already do that, and then they would take them to clubs and stuff in LA because we're USC, we're in LA, so they would use that. You know, they're just gonna. So I could see maybe that happening like in places where a big market is at.
I think one of the most famous recruitment stories is like Julio Jones when he was recruited by Alabama, like, you know, his freshman year, pulling up to Alabama in an Escalade with rims. You know what I'm saying? He's a kid from Georgia, you know, one of those country towns. I don't know if it's Buford or something like that. You know, like why does he have an Escalade? I'm
I know Eric Dickerson did that in the '80s with
Right.
SMU.
Right. But it's like it was such a situation. Like I heard this is, you know, so many players. Like let's say Terrell Pryor. You know, he was Ohio State QB, played wide receiver in the NFL. He was actually suspended in college due to, you know, signing a jersey of his, you know, like a jersey, I think it was number 2, like a number 2 jersey that's being sold in like, you know, the school gift shop is making money off of it. He signed it, you know, and, you know, made money off of it. And he got suspended the whole season. I mean,
didn't he get free tattoos too or something?
Free tattoos as well. And I think Trevor Bauer, he was even suspended when he was in the NFL because of the improper.
Oh yeah, that hurt his. That literally hurt his draft stock. I mean, that affected him.
Remember at the time that was like a whole character concern.
I remember.
You know, remember Cam Newton? You know, Cam Newton was like Tim Tebow's backup when he was like QB at University of Florida, and like he got caught. They say he stole a laptop and threw it out the window when he was questioned by campus administration about it. And it's like a laptop that he received from like, you know, a fan of the team or something that he wanted to have. I mean, you know, think about it. NIL had existed then, he wouldn't have needed to. You know, like so many stories of like athletes, like even, you know, Marco Wade, who I played with. Well, he was a couple years younger than me, played for Andrew Jackson High School. Nate knows of him. He ended up signing with Arkansas. You know, he had a situation in which, you know, he got kicked off the team. You know, him and other kids, you know, got some money. You know, they charged him for like robbery. You know what I'm saying? And the fact that you have like collegiate athletes who like, you're like, oh, the school is spending $100,000 on them. They don't need to get paid. Like bullshit. Like so many of these players don't really have shit. They can't really get a full-time job because student athlete, quote unquote, you have to wake up every day at 6, do your training, go to class, come back to the field house, do your training, and then after practice at 8 o'clock, you have to study, and then you're home like 9, 10 o'clock. Like, when do you have time to make money for yourself if you need extra, you know, funds or anything like that? Imagine if you had children, you know what I'm saying? Like, it hasn't been an ideal situation. So seeing, you know, a player like a Derek King, you know, QB now at the University of Miami. You know, he's a guy that, and he's 5'9". He probably won't be a star like NFL draft prospect, but he's just signed a deal to get $20K from a local advertising. I mean, that's money that he can use and save up for his family. I mean, shit. Fuck if I had $20K when I was in college, you know, I'd be set for life, you know, like, so, you know, good for them.
Yeah, it is.
And that's just one endorsement. He might get some more, you know.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, if you've seen the 30 for 30 on the Fab Five, right? Like the Jalen Rose when he talks about having an interview, like he had a local reporter. Well, okay, it was Detroit Free Press reporter. Can't remember who it was. It wasn't Mitch Albom. But maybe it was Mitch Albom. I'm blanking on that. But anyway, like he agreed to do it because he thought he'd get dinner out of it. And he asked, like, can you buy me dinner? And he was like, well, there's rules, you know what I mean? Like things like that. But like while they walked, in Ann Arbor, while they walked to dinner and to do this interview, they passed by Jalen Rose's jersey that was on sale at that point in the 90s for like $50 because the Fab Five were like the hottest thing, and here Jalen Rose is wanting to know if I do this interview, like, will I get like $5 for like dinner? Like, and that also goes to show, like in the 90s, right? When $5 could buy you dinner, this jersey was still like $50. And he's passing his own jersey hanging there. It avoids those situations, it's going to be interesting. The Terrell Pryor thing, just to go back to that really quick, that was more of the NCAA, like showing just how like prudish they can be and how they'll punish a kid for literally having the audacity to just not cherish the institution. That's the thing that gets me, because when he traded those rings for the tattoos, his response was, first of all, it's mine. Like I earned it. Like I earned the Big Ten championship ring. I've earned it. It's mine. I can do whatever the hell I want with it. And also, I've got more than one. Like I always love that part. He's like, it's not my only one. Like these things, like to him, like, which by the way, I will always say this: Terrell Pryor is the most athletically dominant person I've ever seen live. That doesn't mean he's the most athletically dominant. As a
Raider fan, and it was he made a big run when I seen him play live.
He was an
it was absolute, like maybe that was the closest thing I've seen to like a Michael Vick run,
Yeah, it is. I mean, I remember. So when I watched him play at Ohio State, he pulled away on what was, I think he went for 60, but like it was effortless. And being a former track athlete myself, like there's a thing you look for, right? And that is like with sprinters. If you look like you're going fast, you're not. There's a relaxed nature to speed that people don't think about. They think that it's your whole body's flexed and you're just like cranking it with everything that you have. Like I swear, if you look like you're going fast, someone's going to pass you that's relaxed. And he just had that relaxed ability. And for somebody at 6'6", he's like 230 pounds at Ohio State, and for somebody to move that relaxed and pull away from cornerbacks, pull away from the entire secondary and make it look effortless. It's just, I mean, it was amazing. But anyway, so for this kid with all of his talent and that he earned himself, I think they won at least 2, if not 3 Big Ten titles. So if dude wants to trade one ring for some tattoos, his idea was, this doesn't mean that much to me. So what he did was he pissed off sports fandom culture, number one, who goes, I'd give anything to have that ring. Yeah. And that's them chasing their own bullshit. And 2, you piss off the NCAA, who goes, no, this is the most valuable thing you've ever been given. Like, you should cherish this thing. You should fucking Gollum it and just stare at this because it's so valuable. And he had the audacity to go, I have more than one. I don't need them all.
It's not even the Super Bowl ring.
You know what I mean? Like, so it is, he stepped on the sanctity that is the NCAA and everything that we stand for. But it's that kind of shit, like that kind of mentality they carry into this name, image, likeness shit, though. It's the sanctity, this sanctimonious bullshit they fucking bring to all this stuff by going, no, it's so, don't you know, guys, it's meaningful that you have all this and you did all this and you don't get paid for it. And you know, like this should all mean so much to you just to be here. And that shit is, it's played out. Like we know that's not the case. You've used it to make, at this point, like if you total it all up, you've made trillions of dollars. So amongst all these schools, all this time, you've made so much money off of their backs. But they hang on to it in that same way. But yeah, I love thinking about that whole Terrell Pryor thing and how, he pissed off the two most sacred things, the institution and the fans who went, "You ungrateful, awful person. How dare you? I'd give anything to have that ring." Well, of course you could. You're watching football from your couch and you feel this passionately about it.
And same thing with Reggie Bush too. Didn't affect his
totally.
Career, but they took away those titles from from USC. USC like pretended like he never existed, even though that's the last time that USC has been like a great like team. That was the last time they had dynasty. And they took it away all because he got some house. And then Pete Carroll left and went to the Seahawks to make more money, but he never got in trouble. And I know that he was doing these things where he's giving players because I went to high school with guys that played at USC and like I heard the stories like I was saying earlier, like so I know they were they all do this. It's just if you get caught and then the player is the scapegoat.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, the Fab Five banners are still down. They're in a warehouse.
Yeah, there's two. They took those away. They didn't win a national championship, but they had those other championships, the conference ones.
Yep, they had the Final Fours. They had
the Final Four one.
Yep. So
they were the main reason people watched college basketball like around that time. They were like the team. They were like as big as an NBA team in popularity, like because it was the Fab Five. Like I remember that as a kid. Like everyone was rocking Michigan.
Oh yeah. I mean, what year was that? I was sixth grade, played basketball in the state of Michigan.
You live close.
I mean, it was, I mean, it was all anything. Like I remember we asked our coach, we were like, "We wear black socks?" And he was like, "No." Like, I mean, like it was a cultural revolution as much as it was anything. I remember they had those Air Force Maxes before Charles Barkley had the same model.
And they were the first ones to wear their shorts baggy instead of those super like those really like short ones from the 80s that everyone wears.
It was just and it was one of those things where it's like I don't remember, like, I mean, to show how bad the sports media can be, but like I don't remember stories when I was so engaged and so engulfed by what the Fab Five were. And I don't remember the stories of the hate they faced. You have to watch something like the 30 for 30 to see how many boosters wrote letters, how many Michigan men, how many, like these are grads, these are doctors, lawyers.
It's probably similar to what recently happened with the University of Texas football team.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Exactly that, except for back, now we at least hear about that. Mm-hmm. Like it wasn't until, decades later that you see what they really faced. I mean, and the hateful shit, and at least now, like, I guess we can say social media. I guess we can say, because players can then say something themselves.
That too.
Yep. Jalen Rose talked about that.
Yeah.
Like who was he going to talk to then? He was going to talk to somebody at the Detroit Free Press that was going to be like, yeah, we're not going to print that. End of story. It goes away. He can't just go on Twitter and be like, this is what we're facing. So, yeah, I mean, it's
100%.
Those Texas players.
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah. Yep.
You can hear us?
Okay, cool. Right. No, I 100% agree with everything that's been said. I think we're in a new era. I think it's, oddly enough, I wonder if it was the pandemic really that kind of brought this to the forefront. I mean, it was already bubbling. I know that a lot of states had already put like legislation forth and stuff, but I think like we've talked about on previous shows, like that those protests and stuff that we saw last year
Mm-hmm.
around COVID and players coming together. That this has been happening in the past couple of years in collegiate athletics, and I think you just saw the dam finally break somewhat. With the NCAA. Especially with that Supreme Court ruling. Oddly enough, that Supreme Court ruling, in which you have Brett Kavanaugh, and talking about the NCAA is not above the law. You know what I'm saying? I thought that was kind of it was weird because it was like, oh yeah, we agree, but for the
Yeah,
wrong reasons. I mean, because like
it was a
also
weird
this
feeling to agree with that piece of crap.
piece of shit. Yeah, it was also
Yeah.
like one of those like you know, the right wing criticism of the NCAA is like all based on like, oh, they're like trying to. It was because of COVID, them not, whatever, showing no show of COVID. But also, I guess mainly, the NCAA is actually decent, progressive stances against, banning, trans, students and girls from participating in sports, So it's like we agree right now with the wrong intent about why we hate the NCAA. It was kind of a weird take there, but I mean, nonetheless, it was a good hearing. I mean, it's exciting times. I'm interested to see what these athletes can get for themselves and how that's going to impact the sport. I think you're just going to see a lot more players. Um, think about players who were like good in college, not necessarily good pros, and the pros is where you make all your earnings. You can make earnings in college, you know what I'm saying? And prepare yourself because so many of these fucking privileged kids from these suburbs who go to college, they already have their earnings. You see kids,
Mm-hmm.
coming to these schools with like Mercedes, parents giving them everything, they're not on the same even playing field as the kid coming from like, you know, um, South Florida, like, Miami Gardens, you know what I'm saying, who just struggling to make it. I think, those kids now get an opportunity to, make money in the open economy, because there have been reports of a lot of collegiate athletes, making money in the dark economy, which they're kind of forced to because
Mm-hmm.
they don't have any ability to make ends. I mean, so many of these kids, man, I just think about it. When you're, we talk about this, but when you're the only person in your family able to go to college, and it's because of your athletic skills, you're able to go to college. You have so many people depending on you.
Yep.
And that same mom or dad, if it's a single parent household, while they're supporting you going to college, they still have to work. They still have to like work to send you money, like put money in your bank account every other weekend or, help you with some expense here or there. So it's like these athletes who need to make some money while they're in school to help support their families, they can do that now. You know what I'm saying? If they have the value to do that. And it's like, these are the same people who talk about like believing in free market capitalism. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
what's better than the market? What's better than the free market for like players to test, what their value is,
And like you kind
hopefully
of
in the future
mentioned,
this
some
will
of
lead
those
to like we
players,
said.
those players that might not make it to the NBA, they might end up playing overseas. They can make some money while they're in college. They're there like 3-4 years. They can make some money as a star player. And if they don't make it to NBA, they already made some money. And if they don't, maybe they'll go to overseas. Maybe they won't. But at least they're finally going to make something.
Yeah.
Because a lot of those are a lot of the players that people forget about because they didn't get drafted, but there was a lot of players that were star players in college.
Yep. And that fucked up like situation with everything Mike just said, right? About like for people who is a big deal to be like the first in their family and then like talk about those other like privileged kids is like the juxtaposition, like I hate to sound like a broken record on the Terrell Pryor thing here, but like that was so close in time when Johnny Manziel got busted. Now here's somebody who went, all right, yep, I was signing autographs. I didn't make nearly as much signing autographs as I did with my allowance because that dude got 25 grand a month from his dad just for being alive. So, and what did they do to him? They suspended him for 1/2 of a football game. And Terrell Pryor missed an entire year, and it fucked up his draft status as a QB when again, you know what I mean? Like like you look at that juxtaposition, right? Where it's like the audacity of Terrell Pryor to spit on this ring that we'd all want. But yet Johnny Manziel, like, isn't it cute that like he made less money? Like I remember stories that were literally framed around that. They were like, oh, it's not a big deal. His dad gives him more money than this. Like the idea of this, of that privilege that's there, right? Like, because I will never forget, he sat out. He served his suspension half a fucking game. And it was like, what, the first game of the year? So it was like a nothing game. Like he came in.
They're supposed to beat anyways.
Yeah. So he comes in the second half and they're already winning huge. And then do you remember that's when he started doing this? He started literally doing as a touchdown symbol, like the money. And it's like, I don't get how they can stand on any kind of fucking laurels when they're like, you throw the book at Terrell Pryor. I mean, granted, Terrell Pryor did go on to have an NFL career, and he stretched it out the best that he could with that career. But had he played that last year, you know what I mean? Like, had he played that last year and kept that quarterback stock higher, you know, because like I said, I've seen him in person. Miguel, you've seen him in person. That dude was flat out better than other people. Like, end of story. Like, at this, with this ability that he had. Like,
even on the Raiders his rookie year, he beat out freaking Matt Flynn.
yeah, like I mean, it was all there, but yet, you know, Manziel, who by the way was given every opportunity fucking possible in the NFL and couldn't do shit with it because the talent just wasn't there, flames out, you know. But yet here's Terrell Pryor grinding out a career like 10, 12 years later as a wide receiver. You know, like still seeing him like journeyman, like wide receiver, floating around different teams, grinding out a career. And like Johnny Manziel's like, I don't know, I guess I'll go into the family oil business, you know. And it's just like the juxtaposition of what they each got is just absolutely insane. Like it is.
And now he's playing in that random, that league, the fan controlled players league, whatever it's called.
I gotta
that's
give
just for fun. He doesn't need to play.
Yeah. You know, I definitely want to throw some love out to Neil. This question that he has for us, we can go ahead and we can keep going or we can close on this topic. But Gwen Berry, thoughts on Gwen Berry?
So that was a badass. They did set her up though, like what she pointed out. But she's already been a athlete that's been speaking out about all this. She got suspended in 2019 after winning the Pan American Games, I believe, and getting the gold or whatever for kneeling during the anthem. So she was already a target of the Olympics. And I don't know, I guess I'll say it. Like, I tried to get her on my podcast like a couple months ago and I emailed her. And she was cool and actually responded to me and was really nice. And like, you know, she turned me down because she has to train, but she was hella cool and she wished me luck. And that to me was really badass. Like most people will respond to my emails when I email them, but there's been a couple, you know, when you don't respond to you, and that's fine. But I thought it was really cool that she even took out the time because she didn't have to. She could have just like ignored my email and that's fine because she's busy. But she actually took the time and responded to me a couple times. And so it's pretty cool to see her do that stuff because even though I respect Kaepernick and what he did and I like what he did, I feel this is even more radical than what Kaepernick did because she didn't even kneel.
Oh, at the Olympics for sure.
Yeah.
No, at the Olympics for sure. I mean, it's an international audience, you know. And I remember reading an article about it. it was a Texas Republican, Dan Crenshaw. The guy that looks like Agent Fury. In the eye patch. And I can say that because I'm half blind.
Yeah.
Fuck off. The eye patch guy, yeah. He was, last year, the article talks about it's time to cancel culture. He accused Democrats of progressive fascism via wokeness. And then progressive fascism.
Oh my God.
Progressive fascism is different than reactionary fascism. Two different poles on one fascist goal. He talks about, the article essentially talks about how if you Google I Googled Gwen Berry, and then this is the Fox News. Sean Hannity says,
all the Fox News stuff comes up.
Gwen Berry showed hatred for U.S. and turning back on flag. Let Gwen Berry represent a country less offensive than the U.S.
There was a video of they interviewed some white Olympian, pretty much talking shit about her and his appearance on Fox News. I don't know who the hell he was, but he was an Olympian.
Yeah, oh, God.
Fuck off.
I don't know if you've seen a video from Herschel Walker's son too. He was, because how they're all MAGA and weirdos. He made a video.
Yeah, Herschel Walker's son is
talking shit about her, that went viral, but she responded to it.
Yeah.
It's really fascinating because Herschel Walker's son is nowhere near the athlete Herschel Walker is. Also it's on site with Herschel Walker's son. Him and Jason Whitlock, if I see them in public,
But
this is these are the same people who talked about the left is trying to destroy the country with cancel culture by protesting against police shootings of black people and unarmed people in general and working class people. That's cancel culture. Yet, January 6th, trying to wreck the Capitol. At least have a very provocative protest at the Capitol. Whatever.
Even attack the police.
Insurrection.
They even attack the police that they always love.
Yep. Patriotism's
just really fuck them up.
Yeah. Patriotism's being locked into
people talking about cancel culture.
Yeah. It's fucked up. I mean, I honestly at this point think that patriotism's being locked into an abusive relationship to where it's you can't want the other thing to be better, right? And that's the thing, is that this idea that you can't represent the US if you have problems with the US's flaws is so fucked up to me, because you're sitting here going look, there's a couple routes we could take, right? Let's just go from the leftist perspective. There's a couple options we could take. We could bail. We could just bail on the US. We could just be fuck this sinking ship, and I'm out. I'm going to go to Cuba, or I'm going to go, there's so many places I could go. I smoke cigarettes. I'm the former track athlete that smokes cigarettes. So I could go to Cuba, where they already have a lung cancer cure.
Yeah, they already got
I could go there. I could be in a better spot just by fucking leaving. And that's what they all say. Why don't you just fucking leave?
Why don't you just leave this country if you hate it?
Yeah, cool. That costs $50,000. Do you know how much money it costs just to get the U.S. to get rid of you?
None of these people are the ones that could move away.
Yeah,
and live where the hell
none of these people even get that side of it. But anyway, this whole idea, we could bail, or we could want betterment. Mm-hmm. We could want this place to be better. We could spend time I have a day job that doesn't do anything nearly as cool as Mike's. I work in the private sector that just makes money for the owners of my company, but I can choose what I do with that money. I can choose where I donate that money. I can choose where I use that money as activism. I can choose where I spend my own time, things like that, and actually like betterment. They think that itself is the unpatriotic. Like it is the very like definition it's the anti-definition of love, right? Like they love this country, but they don't want anything to change. Like we love this country, we want things to be better. They think that's a fucking problem. And that's where I see someone like Gwen Berry who just says, nope, things need to still change. I can represent this country. I can represent this because I live here. You know what I mean? Like I live here. I'm a citizen of here. You can't just, it's really hard to give up your citizenship, by the way.
And if
I've literally been
to
denied
compete in the Olympics,
like,
she has to compete
yes.
for the U.S. anyway.
Yep.
Well,
it is.
You know what I want them to do is I want them, you know, anybody who has had any who comes from a nationality of people who have any grievances with the United States historical treatment of their people, like African Americans or other African Americans who represent the U.S. at the Olympics. Don't have them play, you know, like have Gwen Berry, don't have her run, you know, all of them, you know, the whole NBA team just don't roll out there with
and then you'll lose.
Because I'm trying to think like all the good like white NBA players are like all Europeans right now. I'm really like, can y'all name some? Like, what would be an Olympic team? NBA Olympic team without the black athletes, the African American athletes.
All the best white guys are Europeans. So
exactly.
Yeah.
I can't think of an American. Like
I can't think.
Only
of
guy
it.
I could think on top of my head right now is maybe, and he's not even that good, and he's young. Is Tyler Hero maybe? And he's not that.
Yeah,
he's not like a superstar. I can't think of anyone.
Yeah.
Like
Gordon. Hey, Tyler Hero and Gordon Hayward.
Alex Caruso, the Lakers.
Alex Caruso, that's
some of the only guys I could think of, dude.
They're gonna
wait, hang on. Hang on. Where does what position does Hero play? I would really want to see if we can come up with a starting five. What position does Hero play?
He's either point guard or shooting guard.
I think he's a small forward. He's a shooting guard,
okay.
He can handle
shooting guard.
Alex Caruso at point guard.
Yeah, Alex Caruso is point guard. Gordon Hayward is small forward.
Kevin Love, power forward.
Yeah.
Kevin Love is a power forward.
And he wasn't his prime. But he's always in.
Oh.
Who's the last big?
I can't think of a center.
I'm like Sabonis is not American.
White center.
Nope, none of them are American. We can't even field five.
It'd be a 4-star.
There has to be somebody.
A 4-star lineup. Oh, and the other thing was Jalen Rose on this topic of the Olympics got into trouble with right-wing news, right-wing media, because he said that Kevin Love being chosen for the Olympic team was tokenizing him as a white person.
He got chosen over Julius Randle, huh?
Yeah, and
Kevin Love didn't even play this. He played like 10 games.
And they're like, oh, if he said that about a black person, that would be so unfair. That's why I hate the right wing so much. Besides, the other arguments are based in pure abstraction, you know? Like, when have you ever had a situation outside of segregation in which you have to tokenly choose a black player for athletics? So Kevin Love's statistics last year, let's pull that up.
Oh wait, I know a center. One of the Zeller brothers, I guess.
Oh, Zeller.
Tyler Zeller, and I forgot the other brother's name.
Yeah,
Cody
Kevin
Zeller.
Love
They're probably the
averaged
only
12
ones I can
points. Kevin Love averaged
like
12
20
points
games
last year.
Okay.
25 games.
Yeah, see.
Okay.
Games the year before that. 22 in 2018, 2019. So this is the guy so Jalen Rose was absolutely correct.
Yes, he was.
Yes, exactly.
Kevin Love should be.
Gary Colangelo literally said because of his veteran presence, His veteran presence on the past Olympic teams was the main reason. That's like exactly why they signed a random white guy to be like the 14th man on the team.
That's like when Christian Leitner was on the Dream Team.
Oh yeah,
Christian Leitner was on the Dream Team.
And he's not even an NBA yet.
Christian Leitner was on the Dream Team
Instead of Isaiah Thomas.
Exactly.
Isaiah Thomas.
It's
All
fucking
because he had a
insane.
beef,
This is like
apparently,
all
with
the
oh man.
yeah the NBA yeah. It was definitely appeasing white America for them to choose Kevin Love on the NBA team.
Dude,
But besides that point, you know,
if
and
the
kind of
Olympics made
How
a
many-
team,
wrapping up this topic, I guess.
Yeah. How many minutes is Kevin Love going to log in the Olympics?
He's gonna
That's
get like
that's
5
going to be
minutes.
the.
well, if they play some team that they like dominate the whole game, it's like a blowout. Maybe he'll play like a quarter. I forgot. The Olympics go quarters or they go halves. I forgot.
He's
I
going to
think it goes,
play
like, quarters,
the
huh?
United
I think they go halves.
I can't remember anymore. I don't remember if they're college style or if they go quarters.
Yeah, I thought the Olympics they go half with their, and then they got the weird trapezoid.
Oh yeah.
No.
They got the weird shaped key.
If they had an Olympic team that was just all the Balkan players, like they could win.
Oh, absolutely, definitely. I think that
'Cause
would.
all the best white guys are all freaking Eastern European or like from the old Soviet states. Like,
I mean, look at what Porzingis and Luka did. Just the two of them.
and Porzingis is probably the sixth man on one of those teams.
Exactly. Like they weren't going to win. Let's be honest. Dallas wasn't going to win, but like those two dudes, they at least wreaked some havoc.
Doncic, Jokic
So
is
what
already
is-
on your team is already like a hell of a good team when you're starting.
Oh yeah. I was going to say if you just have Jokic. Oh,
What would
that's
any
awesome.
of these what would any of these European teams in the Olympics be without slavery and colonization? I mean, they would all suck. Like I'm looking at Giannis might play for the Greeks. I'm just like, what the fuck?
Oh yeah, like
LeBron
Spain will
in
have
the
a
Olympics
couple
Greek team,
black
besides
African
his
players
Yeah.
on their
influence.
team.
Why?
Yeah, like Tony
and-
Parker
yeah.
used to play for France.
Yep.
Like Ibaka played for Spain because he like established residency there when he like went to play internationally or whatever. I'm like, what? He's not even from there. He's from Africa. Like, dude ain't from Spain. He was on the Spain national team when they had
So
Marc
the-
Gasol and
the-
Paul
the-
Gasol and everybody against the USA team.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Giannis
Yeah,
and all his
it's-
brothers will be on the
Put
Greece
right
team.
in.
Yeah.
But yeah, shout out to Gwen Berry. I wonder if someone else will do something at the Olympics, like when they happen, since they're obviously not getting canceled. But
Oh, it definitely will. Yeah, they
I
definitely
kind of hope it's an
It's gonna be
NBA
great.
player
Yeah, it's gonna
because,
be
dude,
glorious.
they get paid anyways. Like, what are they
Yep.
gonna do? Ban them from the Olympics forever?
And they already spec all the NBA players of being like Chinese communists anyway. So just like
Yeah, because LeBron didn't say anything about China that one time.
No,
Yeah.
you know what would be lit is this is happening in Tokyo, right?
Yep.
All right, so it would be lit if like they did their protest and then there was like a Chinese like red flag in the background, and then the right wing take a picture of that image and just use it everywhere. That'd be lit. I would be in favor of that.
Especially when a
fellas.
lot of the NBA players are huge superstars, like in China. Like, I think LeBron
Yeah.
makes
Yeah.
sells more shoes there than he does in the U.S. Just like Kobe and Jordan.
Stephon Marbury has a museum.
He's the greatest
Like, he
player
has a
in the history of the
museum.
Chinese basketball league, man. Chinese Basketball Association.
He has
Yeah,
a
he's like-
museum.
He's like Michael Jordan there.
Yep.
That's true. I forgot.
Starberry.
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 I still love him, man. I remember when he was
Oh,
playing
absolutely.
with him,
Yeah,
and
like,
KG were
I'm not-
together.
Yep. I'm not saying that to be mean. I'm just saying, like, literally,
No,
he
I
has
know.
a
He was-
museum.
And he
in
was smart
China.
because he made some good money afterwards when he went to China, and he just became like their Michael Jordan.
Yep.
And now, because of
He made
him,
a
a hella
much
players
better,
play over there now that are from the U.S. and
Exactly.
go make money there.
he made a much better career move,
Yeah,
sticking
he
with
did.
China than Amari Stoudemire did, becoming a huge Zionist and
Yeah,
playing
I know. He went to
Yeah.
fucking Israel.
Yeah, it's something that like I just gotta say, like I think that because this is where like not only sports gets roped into this, but like my industry gets roped into this. So commercial and film gets roped into this all the time, and it's always like, oh yeah, you guys just like kowtow to China all the time, like you're just puppets of China. Here's the thing about capitalism. It gives a fuck about one thing and one thing only: money. So here's the deal. When your new Star Wars movie puts in a Chinese character to appease the Chinese market, they didn't do that because of cultural Marxism, you fucking right-wing morons. They did that for fucking money.
Yep.
Which is the exact thing that you, the right-wing moron, should love. You know what I mean? Like, it's money. Like, I will never understand this mentality where they're like, NBA is just in the pocket. No, they're in the pocket of money. Like, they want money. They can't get enough of money, and they just want
I feel
more
like they
of it.
know this. They know this, but they still got to play their whole part because they're fucking right wing. Like, they know this.
It's just insane. Like the amount of things of like where film and TV appease China again just comes down to like the fact that like if I make a product that's a visual medium, if I make a TV show or a movie, I go, holy shit, who has the most people on earth? I would really like it if they also watched my shit. That's a lot of views. Even if they just watched it once, that's a lot of views. Even if they just went and saw it once, and then people they literally are like, oh, they caved to China. Like the patch on the fucking Mavericks jacket that everyone was like all pissed off about with the with the second Top Gun movie. It's like they changed a patch on his jacket to appease China. Yeah, they want the fucking money. There's so much money to be made if everyone in China watches Top Gun. I don't get how this is hard. Like, this isn't complicated. But it's all like, look at
like
what
the NBA. They obviously made they knew what their decision. They're like, we're not saying shit because China's our biggest market outside of this country. It's literally actually probably our biggest market.
And at the same time, like, yeah, it is the biggest market outside the U.S., but at the same time, the way that
took so many years to build it.
Exactly. And the way that the Chinese are pulling people out of poverty at such a higher fucking rate than we ever have, it will be the biggest market moving forward.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like, I didn't think about it like that. I'm like, oh wait.
Like they will surpass in the market if you think about like where we were industrial revolution, like where we were at our biggest boom. They've built more fucking roads in the last 3 years than we built in 30. You know what I mean? Like they are
had a building collapse in Miami and then
exactly else. Like our shit's falling apart and they're building it up. So again, it's like, but yeah, it's kowtowing. You're just caving, and you're like, nope. That's where the money is. That's where the markets are.
You're just like kowtowing to the Chinese agenda of lifting billions.
People out of poverty. Yeah. Sign me up. Yeah. If we could lift people out of poverty here at their rate, cool. Again, sign me up. I'm done. I will definitely do that.
Damn,
awesome.
Man.
fucking right wing. Hey, remember, they only have one playbook. All right. That is misinterpret what you're saying and then attack the misinterpretation and its flaws. It's their one play. I mean, that's all they have. If we can just mislabel, misrepresent, and then attack where the misrepresentation falls short, boom. That's their whole playbook.
We're good, yeah. 100% correct. I mean, you just got to stay vigilant towards it. But we laugh and joke about it. But I mean, it's kind of getting kind of ridiculous now. A lot of the stuff. And I think people are seeing through it. Especially when you try to like tie LeBron to China. That just doesn't. You let him become too popular. You know what I'm saying? And now he's uncontrollable. He's free.
Like you praised the Michael Jordan model for all these years, and then now LeBron does it, takes it to another level.
Yeah,
of course, LeBron wants to sell the Space Jam movie in China too. Like,
exactly. Like investors put money into that movie. Everybody put investments into that movie. Hundreds of people worked on that project. Like it is it, and they don't get paid, the big return. But the point is, it keeps an industry alive. You think about how many animators worked on that. It's going to be hundreds, literal hundreds. And these animators are people who just get paid your standard, like either day rate. You know what I mean? Like they took a day rate, they took a contract for this. They worked on it and then done. You know what I mean? Like it keeps these industries and people in these industries afloat. But all these investors that put money behind all of this want to make their return. So yeah, exactly. They want China to watch it. They want India to watch it. They want everyone to watch it. Mm-hmm. So they will make sure that culturally it stays as safe as it can. And the right wing's like, look at this woke cultural Marxist bullshit. Nope. Free market. That same free market you claim to love is what kept all of these edges nice and, like nice and straight, because we didn't want to piss off India. We didn't want to piss off China. We didn't want to piss off America, and then the right wing goes, well, yeah, but you pissed off me. And you're like, okay. But that's like a loss, right? Like it's 50-50 in America. Like that's the thing. Like it's the saddest fact about our country is that it still is 50-50. Like that's what's so fucked up about this place is that like we're the one where it's like we still have this many right wing, like we still have this many like normie libs too, right? You know what I mean? Like we have the equal amount of both of these things that we've just been stuck with forever. So they just flip a coin and go, all right, what America money do you want to chase? You're going to get half here, half there, but you break even. Don't piss off China. Don't piss off India. Don't piss off the bigger markets that are, you know what I mean? Like it's just, yeah, it's fucking insane that they can't wrap their head around that. But like, it's also really sad. Like, just sorry. Saying that out loud just made me really depressed. Like, why are we still stuck at 50-50 in this country? Like, we really are. Like, there's us, you know what I mean? And there's a lot more of us than I'm giving us credit for. You know that there are, but like, why does it feel like this country? And maybe it's because that's the narrative, right? The narrative is that we're still stuck right down the middle when it's really not. It's way more nuanced. But like, I feel like we're still there. I think I just always feel like that's where we are, because two-party duopolies just created this shit to where we're just like, nope, this shit or this shit.
I just found out not that long ago that Japan had a communist party. I'm like, dude, like we can't even have we used to have one, but like, well, we have small parties, like there's some, but I'm like, in other countries, they have more say, they have more power, they have more numbers. It's just crazy. Like, yeah, this is like a normal thing in other countries where they have all these different types of electoral parties, but like,
yep, we don't get that here. This is why we can't have nice things.
Oh man,
awesome guys. Well, I think that's good for tonight. I hope Nate enjoyed his night off with family upstate. Thanks everybody for hanging out. If anybody, honestly, I know that I've talked to her about this, but if anybody needs two amazing dogs, I know that Mini Ninja is definitely still looking for a home for 2 of her dogs. So please put that word out, help her out with that. Yeah, everybody, thanks for hanging out. Miguel, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, always a pleasure.
Thank y'all.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having me again. Have a good one. Good night.
Yeah. Peace.
Later.